I'm on track to hit 20K this month, and I made over $40,000 in Q4 of 2025. And it all just started from this little thing I started a year ago called appointment setting. I didn't have any prior experience, nor did I have any advantages. I was just a uni student that wanted more than just an unfulfilling, boring life after I graduated. Believe me or not, I actually started making money right from the get-go in the first month. Even though it wasn't too much, it showed me that money online was real. Now I run my own business, guiding university students to make bread from anywhere in the world just by having conversations in the DMs. And because I'm in a good mood today you're going to be learning exactly how students like Juna went from procrastinating watching TikTok 8 hours a day to hit his record month of 6K in December when he was traveling in Japan. Poor Gab from a little town in New Zealand, he literally got on call with me when he turned 20. He just was searching for a community, and now he's on track to hit 3K this month. And these two is just the beginning of all the people that just learn one skill and use that skill to change their life completely. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you not exactly the actual basics, but more of an in-depth training. If you want to be watching the basics of what setting is, make sure to watch the other video. I'm going to put it inside the description down below. This is going to be a long video. I got some nice chill clothing on, so make sure you grab a drink and take your notebook out because there's going to be a lot to learn. Alright, let's get right into it. First, setting jargon, closed sets. Closed sets is basically the sets that you close. So basically, when you book in a person, book an appointment that is qualified to get on a sales call, and then that closer or offer holder closes the deal, that's considered a closed set. So the only way you're going to be making money through commission is through those closed sets. Book calls, obviously calls that you booked. Qualified versus unqualified. I've talked about this before, but qualified is people that have the money, people that fit the community, and people that generally that has the problem that we can fix. That is what qualified is. Unqualified would be people that don't have the money or the right personality, or they can't speak English, for example. This is specifically based on your ICP, your ideal client profile, which is fully dependent on your offer holder, which means that every qualification is different in every offer that you are on. Obviously, when we're referring to qualified versus unqualified, we are talking about leads. So the people that you booked on call, whether they're qualified or unqualified. Next, inbounds versus outbounds. Inbounds. Inbounds are people who directly contact you first or start the conversation with the offer holder first. If you notice, we also have CTA here. It's a call to action. So an example of an inbound will be someone DMing you a CTA. For example, DM me fit for one-on-one coaching. An inbound to that offer would be fit, while an outbound is slightly different. Outbound is basically someone that you reach out to, or you as a setter reaches out to. The offer holder reaches out and starts a conversation with one of their leads. Depending on warm versus cold, is that warm people are the ones closer to you, while cold is further away. Think of it as like the hot and cold game. The closer you are to the person, the hotter you are, or the warmer you are. And the further away is colder. We can refer to how much content they've consumed, how long they've been actually consuming the content, and how much information do they have about the offer holder. So when the lead is warm, they understand that the offer holder has authority, is already solution aware, and they already understand the problems that they're facing based off the content they've consumed. While cold is usually people who haven't touched the content at all, or is just a new follower. We would consider that a colder lead. When we do a warm outbound, that means we are outbounding, making conversations with leads that already directly connect with the content, which is viewers, followers, people who comment on content, likes on stories, and obviously followers. While cold outbound is people who don't directly engage with the offer holder's content, which basically means followers are followers, mutuals are followers, or people that you randomly find in your FYP. Okay, book qualified calls. What does that mean? As a setter, the main thing you want to be doing is book qualified calls. Why? Because book qualified people means that they have the money in order to pay. Why would you book someone in and waste the closer's time if they don't have the money? That's just a waste of time, right? Not efficient. And that brings us to ICP, ideal client profile. Qualified based off financially, geographically, age, race, whatever, depending on your ICP. Financially obviously means that they have some sort of income coming in and they can afford the program. Let's say you're selling a 5K program for 4 months. If you target someone that, lives in a country with a minimum wage of $300, then most likely they don't have the money to actually buy. So why waste your time, disqualify them, and then try to give them free information rather than get them on a call. Qualified leads, finding out their job and occupation, where they live, because we want to make sure that we're getting people from a first world country, depending on your offer holder once again. and why exactly they want to start. The whole idea of setting is that you handle DMs for offer holders. If you don't have a closer and the offer holder is the person that is getting on sales calls, you have to try to get as many lay down sales calls as much as possible. What does lay down sales calls mean? Lay down sales calls are sales calls that don't have any objections, and the lead himself or herself is warm enough that they just have to get on call to understand a little bit more info, and then they close. Those are lay down sales calls. Saves as much time for closer offer holder as much as possible. And that's something that you can do because you are booking in the appointments, and you can do a lot more than just book them in. We want to nurture them, pain dig, and we can also build urgency before the sales call. Nurturing, trust, and incentive. Building trust is free value plus acknowledgement plus relatability, and building incentive equals taking pain and urgency. What does that mean? All right, why would we want to have trust and why would we want to have incentive? The reason for trust is that not only is the lead finding us as an authority, but at the same time, people want to buy from people they actually fuck with, people that they actually have a connection with. Why would a random person buy from a fitness coach, for example, with 100 followers and 100,000 followers? Is because of the genuine connection from story, from their background, their cultural beliefs, their religion. These are the things that come up. You tend to find that people want to buy to people that they actually have some sort of relation with, or they connect in some way with their hobbies, interests, whatever. And that's why we build trust. Acknowledgement and relatability is the main thing inside DMs. Not only does it allow another person to feel more comfortable to open up during pain digging questions, but at the same time, it's going to be easier to sell them because you have some sort of connection already. Also increasing the show up rate inside the sales calls. Incentive. One of the main things about incentive is that incentive is not usually made. When you are trying to build incentives, this means being needy and trying to convince someone to, let's say, start a fitness coaching program or start a high ticket closing program. If you try to incentivize them and you try to convince them to do something, not only is it going to take you a lot of time, which is super inefficient, but at the same time, you as an offer holder, think about it inside what I like to call the client shoes theory. If you are the offer holder and you're making $50K a month, would you really be spending 4 hours trying to convince someone to start coaching or whatever? No, you wouldn't, because it would be a waste of time. And you lose a lot of authority because, you get what we call commission breath when someone is trying to oversell. A good rule of thumb is that incentive is built out. So, we built on the incentive that is already there. That's through digging pain, building urgency, asking urgency questions so they get on the call and they want to take action much sooner than later. Dig pain inside the DMs, finding out their real why, understanding their struggle, their incentive, and their goal. I'm going to be talking about this a little bit later, but you have to understand that there are 3 layers of pain. We call it the Sandler pain funnel. The Sandler pain funnel basically describes the multiple layers of pain, whether that's surface level, business logical, and emotional pain. Emotional pain is obviously the pain that is super deep. And depending on what type of offer you are, whether B2C or B2B, then you would have to dig pain points based off this. An example of emotional pain would be surface level pain. I want to get abs. Emotional pain would be, I want to lose weight because I want to be happy because I've never been confident in my whole life. And I want to make sure that I can be a role model for the rest of my family. This is an emotional pain. People can't sell a 5K program for fitness coaching if we're just selling them abs. Anybody can sell them abs. No, we sell the person that they want to become. That's how you sell. That's how people sell high ticket. It's not just about the surface level problems, it's about the emotional problems. Okay. This is a DM funnel and a DM call funnel. I'm sure you've seen this before if you watched my previous video, but to go through it over a little bit more quickly, just like a short recap. A DM funnel has 3 layers. Content, CTA, and then we have DMs, and then we have a sales call. A content is a top of funnel, basically bringing in the leads, and I'm going to be talking about different types of content funnels later on inside the video. But content is the main thing on the top, just bringing the leads in, and then we get CTAs, bring them down to the DMs, which we nurture the leads, and then we book them in, and then we have the sales call with the offer holder. And this is another example, but we have an example of an SDR. Instead of DMs, we have a call funnel, which is appointment setting, but dialing instead of actually running it on IG DMs, LinkedIn DMs, or TikTok DMs. How do you make money? Commission from the cash collected of every set close, 5% industry average. We have the base pay, which is usually $300 to $500, depending how nice your offer holder is. You might not even get a base pay. How long do you work? How much money do you want to make? Is it easy? Nothing is easy. Can I text you to find an offer? Depending on how I feel about you, but this is probably the hardest part of actually being a setter, finding an offer without any experience. This is what I do inside my program. because I feel like that's the hardest thing to find, but I'm going to be talking about it later on inside the video. Remember when I was mentioning problem aware, solution aware? The main thing about lead awareness, it's quite complex to understand, but I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for you to understand this. But depending on your ICP and depending on the problems that you're facing in terms of the offer itself, is what type of leads are you actually going to get. Whether you're going to get problem aware leads or solution aware leads. That's specifically based off content. But inside a conversation, we potentially want to bring people who are unaware or problem aware into where they are solution aware, or at least most aware. What does that mean? Unaware is when a lead doesn't know what they want to do. They don't even know that they feel lost. These are people that we don't want to sell to. Problem aware would be like, yeah, I feel lost. The content is telling me, like the motivational content that you guys watch every single day inside your FYP. This is problem aware content. Like, oh yeah, stop jerking off or get into the gym. Solution aware is the stage where a lead understands that they need to find a solution. They know what the solution is, but they don't know how to take action to it. And that moves us into most aware, which is showing basically that the lead knows everything about our program, finds the offer as an authority, and is already ready to buy. We try to want to move every single lead down this process during the sales funnel. Try to take as many notes as you can. Just DM me and I'll be willing to send over some for you guys if you want, or explain a little bit more just for you. Or if you guys want to actually get into setting, then DM me Seko and I can get on a call with you, see how I can help you out. How to B2C. B2C basically means business to consumer. There's two types of offers. There's a B2B, which sells to businesses, and B2C, which sells to consumers. The main difference, like I was saying before, is that B2C is very much emotional selling, while B2B is a lot more logical and kind of opportunity cost. If you guys don't know what opportunity cost is, lock in. But opportunity cost is basically saying like one action would cost another action. For example, if I were to take this mouse, I wouldn't be able to take my laptop. The opportunity cost of taking this mouse would be taking the laptop, right? So in a business perspective is if they're not doing this, they're going to lose a lot of money. That's an opportunity cost. By not tracking your data, you're going to be losing a lot of money from your bottlenecks. This is an example of what an opportunity cost is. But before getting into that, I want to show you exactly how a B2C conversation would go in terms of how to run a conversation and its format. I've told you guys what an evergreen success format is. Again, if you don't know what that is, I highly suggest you to watch the previous video. But basically, it's just a structure of how a conversation should run. So from report, qualifying, and then you go into pay nigging, and then you go into solution aware, call pitch, and then post booking. This is kind of that, just a lot in more detail. So first of all, before you even get into the format, you have to understand how to question. Questioning is a very big thing because you can question with a lot of sales pressure, with a lot of sales friction, and ask way too robotically, right? You have to understand questioning in terms of tonality, in terms of progressing inside a conversation is very, very important. You want to try to be as genuine as possible, right? And the whole idea of running DMs is you want to remove as much sales friction as possible to make them feel comfortable enough to get on a call and actually make a change. The best sales funnels are the ones that people don't feel like they're getting sold to. Try to actually help the people that you're speaking to and show that you're willing to help them. The two rules of thumbs that I would definitely tell you about questioning is obviously don't be robotic. Try to make sure your questions are as casual as possible and never double question. I don't know why people do this, but when you double question, you're giving two kind of like things to think about, right? Especially for consumers. They wouldn't answer both with as much effort because they instantly cognitively have a bias of which one they want to answer more depending on, what situation they're in. But because of that, they're going to end up half-assing one of the questions. And if you're asking two important questions and you want both to be answered, you can't be asking two questions because they're going to end up half-assing both or, half-assing one of them. So try to separate your questions and try to treat it like a conversation you're having with a friend or in real life. How I'd like to do this is probably a short question, let the lead respond, have the follow-up question, lead responds, acknowledge them without asking a question, lead responds, and then move on to the next question. This just makes it a lot more casual, right? If you're asking a question every single time you respond, first of all, they can tell it's a framework and they can tell that it's a sales script because it sounds like an interview. You have to have genuine conversations, and you can't do that if you're asking a question with every single response. It sounds easy, but everybody does it because we think that we want to get it as fast as possible, move into the sauce as much as possible. But The best conversations are the one you wait. People get 18K piffs by having a report for a few weeks and then getting them on a call. No sales pressure at all. We don't have any comms breath. Suddenly they piff 16.5K. One of Juna's actual conversations, it was just through the DMs. You know, we acted like a regular person. He ended up making 1.2K comms from that from a DM close, which is 10% comms, by the way. Let's move on. Outreach. Outreach is the same thing as outbound, where you're starting a conversation with a person that directly engages with the content. Let's say warm outreach. The whole point of warm outreach, whatever you say, ultimately, the goal is to have a response. So it doesn't matter what you say, whether it's appreciate the follow, we can go through the content approach, we can have a poll answer approach inside the story, and then we send it over on the DMs, or like this. This ripped for some reason. What type of Asian are you? Can't tell, lol. You don't have to be overthinking this. Outreach is very, very chill. The only thing is like you're responding to your friend and you're trying to make conversation with them. That's why my personal favorite is the story outbound, because people logically, they put out stories because they want engagement. There's no reason why a person would post a story and not answer people who are commenting on it. It's a whole ego thing. So the best type of outreach is definitely look through the story of the lead and then start your outreach from there. No matter what they say, just make it based off the actual topic of the story and then smooth transition into whatever topic you want to be talking about. Qualifying and report. Step 1, report. Like I said, make sure the transition from outbound style is smooth to talking about the offer subject. An example of this would be, let's say you post a picture of the Eiffel Tower, right? And I'm like, oh, I love the Eiffel Tower. I've been trying to go out to Paris. Any recommendations? Boom. Outreach, they're going to respond. They'll be like, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, Paris is beautiful. Go here, here, and here. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I heard that the networking there is really good too as well. You know, there's so many sales guys out there. Are you in sales yourself? Smooth transition from talking about location instead of saying like very explicit kind of like over the top example, but you try to make it seem like you're outreaching to them because you want to get to know them instead of trying to sell them. And if you do a random outreach and then suddenly you move a transition straight into talking about the business thing, nobody's going to respond. Some of the best outreaches, to be honest with you, are the ones that are so off guard. I had one that said like, yo, Matt, your meat got leaked online. What did it make me do? Open it, right? Even though it's stupid and funny, I didn't respond to it, but it is an example of an outreach that might be funny and people would respond to. Okay, step 2, qualifying. In terms of early qualification, I always do this and I always tell my students to do this because you want to make sure that you're getting as much time efficiency as possible. If you don't pre-qualify, and you end up qualifying towards the end of the conversation, imagine you're speaking to a lead for 3 hours straight and you end up realizing that he comes from a third world country and is living in a village. You don't want to spend that time not knowing where the conversation is going to go. You try to increase the amount of time efficiency that you have. So if you ask them where they're from and what occupation that they have, you kind of have an understanding whether this lead is worth talking to or not. And that's the whole idea of early qualifying. Next, after you're early qualified, yeah, you had some sort of report. If your report is good, or at least well enough, pain digging should be super, super easy. Because if you build up a connection, shown some relatability, acknowledged a lot, and let them open up and build a connection with the lead, then pain digging should be a lot easier. It helps them open up, because you guys are practically friends now. Inside pain digging, we have 2 steps. The first step being the North Star. No, some people would say North Star is that one thing that they want to achieve, but I like to think North Star is a list of questions that they need to answer for you to understand what their actual goal is. Hey, an example of this, North Star. What have they tried? What's their goal? What's holding them back? How long have they been trying to get to that goal? These are examples of tangible goals. We have the tangible goals and now we can leverage them to move into the actual pain digging, like how come you haven't reached that goal? Why do you want to reach that goal? How long have you been selling to reach that goal? These are the questions that we can be asking with the 3 layers of pain, like I was talking to you about the Sandler pain funnel. Layer 1, why they want to do it. 2, how important is it for them to get to that? Layer 3, what would it do for you if you achieve that? Again, like I said, surface level pain, logical pain, and then emotional pain. One of the main things about painting that you have to understand is that you don't want to settle for crumbs. You have to understand that one pain point that is probed and dug into a lot more is a lot better than multiple pain points that has no substance. An example of that would be like, someone's fat, confidence, you build on their confidence, why they don't feel confident, and what would it feel like if they were confident again, rather than, I feel like shit, I want to be able to impress girls, I want to go to work with a tight shirt, I don't know. But multiple pain points that don't mean anything. That doesn't do anything for you. One pain point that's dug really deep is so much better than settling for crumbs that have no substance. Next, after pain digging, now we have brought them to problem aware, right? They understand what their issue is, and we dug enough pain to make sure they understand what the issue is. Now we have solution aware. Solution aware is just basically making sure that we can provide value for them and we give them free info so we can have an authority and at the same time build some trust to make them understand that we are the solution. The whole idea of pain digging is that we are making a gap. We're making a gap between the lead and the offer holder. So the lead is currently here and we were here, and the offer holder is where the lead wants to be. Now we've widened the gap. We want to bridge the gap, right? We want to make a bridge. How does the lead get to the position of the offer holder? You know, the place where they want to be, the person that they want to become. This is where we do it. We have solution aware. We give them steps and we give them free info, not only to actually help them out, but at the same time show them that we are an authority and they can trust us to help them. We have the information that they don't have. And basically we do that by client results. You know, let's say my client Alex was in the same exact position as you. And in order to get him to where he's at now, making whatever figures a month, he did this, and this. Or we can also bring up a personal story, which also helps with pain digging. We could say like, I was in the exact same position as you before, and I remember feeling like shit because I couldn't make money in the first few months, or I couldn't progress in the first few months. And what I did to actually quickly progress is this, and this. Mindset shifting, taking that first step, or provide some sort of information that will benefit the lead to get closer to their goal. That's what solution aware is. And then next important part, call pitch. How to call pitch? Say, don't ask, mutual incentive, which basically means that people think rationally. So you have to make sure that when you are pitching the call, we're showing that we're providing some sort of value. If you tell someone that we're going to get on a call just to sell them, nobody's going to join. They have to have some sort of benefit from joining the call. And this is what mutual incentive is. Providing value and information on the call, whether it's to do with their specific pain points or building up a plan for their fitness goals or their TikTok shop offer, or giving them access to a network for making a new TikTok brand or something. Bring up goals and pain points and how we are going to be specifically solving that on the call. An example of this could be like, yeah, let's get on a call in the next couple of days. I'll show you how Alex got to XYZ a month by just dialing in his content strategy and how you could do the same. You see how there I'm not suggesting, I'm telling the lead that we're going to get on a call, and then I give them the benefit of the information that they can be getting, and at the same time showing them that, yeah, we're going to be talking about something else, so I might be selling you. So, you know, it's not a free info call. Post booking. Step 1, requalify budget. Step 2, VSL puts free resource. Ask about the VSL, edge the lead with half-ass information, which I like to call edging. And step 5, reminders. The whole idea of post booking is that people miss out a lot on post booking because setters think that their final goal is to book a call, which doesn't make sense because you only make money when the deal closes. You get commission based off a closed deal. So you don't stop at the booking. Post-booking is so important. Not only can you ask questions that you weren't able to ask while you were inside the conversation, but at the same time, you can send over the VSL, which is a post-booking resource to warm up the lead, and you can build a connection to make sure they actually show up. I think a shit show-up rate, anything under 85%, right? You want to make sure every single lead gets on a call. And how do you do that? You do post-booking report. You edge them with information. You can be like, yeah, I remember you told me about this. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, but I'll make sure to explain it inside the call so they know what they're going to expect. Or we can start, talking about their life, have actual report to build some sort of connection, amplify on that connection so people feel bad when they don't show up to the call. These are things that you can be doing inside the post-booking report. That's why it's so important. So important. I can't stress this enough. Okay, you got on an interview, now what? In an interview, preparation is king. You have to know what they're looking for. You have to research the company. You have to understand the culture and the values. You have to understand who you're talking to, who you're getting on an interview with, and understand their market. You have to be watching the offer holders' videos, understand the business, understand the offer, understand the mannerisms and the personal story, and how you can relate to the offer holder. Know your USP, unique selling propositions, and have stories ready. The more you know, the more autonomy you have inside the conversation. And In order to do that, you also have to know yourself. There's nothing better than a team that has a full alignment with their goals and their future outcomes. Figure out yourself. Why? Your mission, why you're doing this, how, your values, what you stand for, what your lifestyle, interests, background, goals. Because most of the time, setter managers or offer holders don't take a look at your setting experience. Yes, they care about that, but not too much. They care about the person that you are, whether you're hardworking, whether you're resilient, whether you actually want to do more, and whether you're loyal. Tell them that you're a long-term player. Try to find growth in terms of your career inside their business. Create a personal statement, 2 sentences max. This is your who I am pitch. You always get asked, tell me a little bit about yourself. And you should always know exactly what to say. Know where you want to work at this company specifically, not generic shit, real reasons. And most importantly, can you prove you'll do what it takes to perform? Set goals and reverse engineer how you'll hit them. Ask as many questions as you can. Setter manager and offer holders want to see that you are genuinely interested inside the business. Make sure you're asking as many questions as you can to an extent. Of course, you have to do your research, but at the same time, you should be asking questions like, what are the business's goals? How can you help specifically achieve those business's goals? If they did have a setter before, why exactly did they quit? Or how did they perform? How can I perform better than the previous setter? These are specific things that show them that, you're the real shit. So make sure you start acting like an A player. Next, you are in an offer. Now what? You did the setting training, you did the interview. Now it's time to actually prove yourself, because you can get laid off in the next 3 days if you don't perform. For a setter manager, at least in my experience, these are the things that I would tell my students and the people that I manage to do. Watch your offer holders videos, plan out your workflow, go through a personal page. If you want a copy of that, of my format, you can shout me a DM. Review old conversations inside the DMs, understand the DMs, review KPIs and SOPs. Within the first 2 weeks, you have to be building out a framework for yourself. Don't fucking miss an EOD, because that's how you figure out your bottlenecks, and your setter manager is going to hate you if you don't fill out your EOD. Review your inputs and convos every single day, and constant fucking communication. If you actually want to get to your goal faster, you're going to need other people to help you out. And if you have the resources around you to help you out, then speak to them. Don't take them for granted. They're there for a reason, especially setter managers. Setter managers are paid to help you out. And if you're not communicating with them, asking about problems, things that you can be doing better specifically, then you're just wasting everybody's time. They're already there. Take advantage of them. Even if you're inside a mentorship right now. First of all, if you're inside a mentorship, I don't know why you're watching this, but you've already paid to be in that mentorship. You already have coaches, you have SOPs, you have other videos that you can be watching. Take advantage of them. My students that are making 6K a month, they still keep reviewing the conversation, sending me comment reviews every single day. They never fucking miss an EOD, because this is the discipline that you have to build in order to get to that point. So constant fucking communication. Sorry for the ramble. Next, tracking. Tracking is so important. This is an example of what I give my students, the Setco lead tracking sheet. Basically, just tracking every single lead. I'm going to give you an example of one of my students and how he tracks. Look at this. We track every single thing. The more you track, the more money you're going to make. It's that simple. If you track every single outreach, you understand which one has the best response rate. Look, these are all no's. That means we're not going to use that anymore. We understand who we outreach to, and every single time someone is qualified, we put them here and we start, let's say we write down when they pitch, when we can follow up, and the reason why they decided not to get on call or decided not to book in a call. So we can follow them up in the future. This is the shit that you have to do. Tracking helps you with your bottlenecks as well. I also have a Looker Studio where I track the sales metrics in terms of convo to book call, things like show up rate, things like close rate, things like outreach to conversation to book call, pitch to book. These are things that you have to be calculating yourself. You're going to know how to kind of be a doctor, and really figure out your symptoms and figure out your bottlenecks, diagnose yourself and see what the solution is. And without data, you won't be able to do that. You'll just be endlessly suffering, not knowing what to fix, right? If your setter manager isn't doing this, send them this video. Okay, last thing, how to manage your day. Managing your day is very, very important. Google Calendar is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me in the last year. I put everything inside my calendar, whether it's class, whether it's when I shower, eat, when I go out with my friends, when I meet my parents. I put everything inside the calendar, because when you start understanding how much time you have in a day and you put out each block, you put every task with every hour, you're going to get so much more shit done. right? And especially if you have certain time slots and it's less time, you're going to work a lot more efficiently. And having structure like this just makes your day a lot easier. It helps you build your discipline when you eat breakfast, what time you wake up, when you go to the gym every single day. If you make room for all of this stuff, it builds discipline. So, how to manage your day? I would always prioritize money. This is what I always tell my students. Prioritize money. What does that mean? People that have already booked in, so you want to make sure they show up. And then people that you pitch that haven't booked in, make sure to follow up with them. And then follow-ups. Follow-ups from people who are already qualified based off the tracking sheet that I had before. And then you start the conversation from there. Next, clear out your inbox. Very, very important. Just do that throughout the day and make sure at the end of every single day, you have a time where you do your EODs and you reflect on today's performance. Today's performance doesn't necessarily mean having a book call every single day. That can just mean the amount of conversations that you're having with qualified leads, how many people that you're actually moving on to a book call, and just based off the conversations that you're having. Were your conversations today bad or were they good? Which parts could you improve on? These are the things that you can also bring up with your center manager or your mentor just to make sure that you're improving every single day. I like to follow Kaizen, 1% every single day to make sure that these kind of incremental changes lead into an exponential change towards a long period of time.